Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel because all things aviation. And to be welcoming you back. Today we're in conversation with a young man from Limpopo, all the way from the north of South Africa, Limpopo. Obviously, it's a bit difficult to talk with this thing. We have tried to social distance, sufficient distance between us, which is quite cool. I can remove this and you guys can hear me. This is Bokang. He will introduce himself. He is from the province of Limpopo in the north of South Africa. Bokang, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's Bokang Sello from Limpopo, from a small village outside Polokwane.
Outside Polokwane. I like the fact that you're saying from a small village outside Polokwane. Today I'm here with a village boy from Limpopo. Yeah. All right, Bokang. Good to have you on board. We are shooting this in the time of COVID, and you have braved it. You've come this far, and you've taken all precautions we can for us to be safe, which is good. Let's just get down to it. Bokang, I met him a few months ago, earlier this year, right?
Yes.
On Facebook, we started talking, and he's interested in aviation. We exchanged, communications. I gave him advice here and there. I gave him information that he required. And today we're sitting here because we thought this conversation must be continued on the channel itself, so that other young persons in the shoes of Bokang can actually see that if you reach out, there are people that are willing, to assist. So thank you for pulling through, Bokang, and thanks to your aunt for bringing you through as well, driving you all the way here. That's awesome. You have just finished grade 10.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you're doing your high school, you just finished grade 10. 2021, you're going into grade 11.
Yes.
You're getting closer to finishing your high school and getting what we call in South Africa the matric certificate, the school leaving certificate. Right, what subjects were you handling at, in grade 10, and what subjects will you be handling in grade 11?
Grade 10 and grade 11 are handling the same subjects: physical sciences, life sciences, geography, pure maths, and language.
I'm listening to you listing all the subjects. I'm like, tick, 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 tick. You're ticking all the boxes I wanted you to tick. You listed math, pure math.
Yes.
Which is critical. Government has been changing the curriculum again and again and again, and at some point they introduced something called Maths Lit, which is not really maths, and I don't know, because during my time it wasn't there. But you said you're doing pure maths, which would be very critical in what you aspire to do in the future. You also listed English, the language English as a subject, which would also be critical in the future as you pursue the studies you want to pursue. You also listed geography, which would be critical for your navigation, which would be critical for understanding the globe and how the globe is formed, or how it was formed, how it is shaped, how it behaves, how it rotates, how it is tilted and stuff like, and how that affects the seasons, how that affects weather, how that affects sunlight, and so forth and so forth. There's the last one, physics.
Yeah, physical sciences.
That is also going to be critical. In your flight planning, in your ATG, in most of your subjects, aircraft technical in general, flight planning and performance, because you will need to know and apply the laws of physics to many of the movements or many of the all the operations of an aircraft when you deal with that particular subject. I think all in all, the subjects you've chosen have set you on the right path to becoming an aviator as you wish to become one in the future. So all is good. I think all you need to do is to make sure that you get good grades, you pass your matric, and you get a good flying school.
Yes, definitely.
So why piloting, Bokang? Why were you gravitating towards becoming a pilot?
My journey towards the cockpit started a few years back, where I watch aviation shows, just to understand the plane in particular, not the people. I don't even know if there are people who actually fly it, but just wanted to know how this big machine works.
Yeah.
And then the love for aviation grew right there. Keeps on growing and growing to a point where I want to know now, how do those people fly it? And then at a certain point, it gets to a point where I also want to do it. you know. Yeah, so I believe that aviation is a calling indeed.
It is a calling, you're right, yeah.
You do not just wake up and decide, today let me go and do this thing. You grow with it, you know.
You grow with it,
Yeah. So
okay.
it is definitely a calling. Just have to pursue it and
Yeah.
do it with love. Yeah.
And you are intent on pursuing your calling to the end.
Definitely.
Come what may, whatever struggles are there, you are ready for them.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I love the fact that every aviator you talk to, you get the feeling that it's more like you're saying, it's a calling. It's an inborn thing. It's in you, whether you know it or not, whether you want it or not. It's in you. One way or the other, it will surface. It will manifest. It will show itself. What you do with it is your own decision, but it will haunt you until you actually do it.
Yeah.
You know, because every aviator starts by saying, just now when we're talking, an aircraft passed by, and you might have noticed me looking up to the sky. I wanted to see what aircraft is that, how high is it, which direction is it going, is it probably going to Lanseria Airport just behind me, or is it just taken off from Ortambo on the other side? So if you begin to see those signs as a young person, then you know the calling is in you. You know, you really have to pursue this thing. These things interest you. You know, the sky for you is not just the sky. What depends in the sky, whatever flies across the sky is of interest to you. And that was the case with you as well. So now that you know that you want to become a pilot, are you looking at a fixed wing aircraft, that is your usual aeroplane with wings, or are you looking at a helicopter, a rotor aircraft?
That'll be definitely a fixed wing aeroplane. You know, cause.
All right, you're looking at doing a fixed wing aircraft. Okay, that's fine. Now we need to address the question of when and where do you want to train? Obviously, you're in grade 11 now, one more grade and you're done with matric. Are you looking at doing your training while in matric, or finishing matric first and then doing your training, or finishing matric and doing training in aviation and university at the same time?
After matric, straight to aviation. You know, I have to finish matric first. So in case it doesn't work out, I can look for other career path. You know? Yeah. So it's a good idea to finish matric first and then focus on this thing. You know, focus on it at once. Yeah. So it's a good thing to finish matric first.
Okay, I like the fact that you're touching on an alternative career path, just in case. You know, the one thing we've learned from COVID-19 is that you plan for the future, but the future has a tendency to plan for itself.
Yes.
You know, you want to finish matric because it's important to have that school leaving certificate. It allows you to then go and train in whatever field you want to in the future. And then, but what you want to do is then focus on aviation soon after matric.
Yes.
Finalize it. And then you can say, listen, I can perhaps go to university via distance learning while I work for the airlines as a backup, just in case anything happens. That's a good plan. Do you want to look for a flying school back in Limpopo or somewhere in Johannesburg where things are hip and happening?
Definitely in Johannesburg. So that I can be close to my mentor.
Yeah.
Because I've been living in Limpopo for like the rest of my life. So you have to go out, you know, and find some good flying schools, which are mostly situated in Johannesburg.
In Johannesburg, So definitely Joburg is the best place to do your flying, because there are many schools you can choose from. I mean, you've seen videos of me in the past detailing what to look for when you're choosing a flying school. Obviously, you need to visit the school, see what it looks like inside. How are the premises? How are they kept? How is the people relations within the school? How do they treat you? Do you feel like a VIP when you walk into the school, or do you feel like someone who's annoying them? All those things will matter because you'll be with those people for a long time while training under them. Are they relatable? You need to focus on all those things. The fleet itself, you know, are the aircraft dirty? Have they been washed? Because if people don't wash their aircraft, they don't clean their aircraft, that tells you a lot about whether they value what they're doing or not. You know, is the fleet old? Do they have one aircraft which is shared by 20 students, or do they have 20 aircraft which are shared by 20 students? You know, you have to look at all those things. Are you going to be waiting forever and ever and ever for you to get an aircraft? Do they have a sound booking system for aircrafts, or does anyone just go in and just take an aircraft whenever, and therefore the systems don't work? So you need to look out for all those things. Is it a manned airfield where they operate from, or an unmanned airfield, what we call a controlled versus an uncontrolled airfield. Now each one has its advantages and disadvantages. If it's a controlled airfield, then the advantage is that very early in your career, you get to work in a busy environment and you get used to that busyness. You get to talk to ATC quite early in your training, and then your radio work will be quite good because of that. But the downside is that it may take you more time to fly because of the delays, because of the queuing up and stuff like that. But that's part of training. The advantage of the fella training in the unmanned airfield is that they can start up and take off in no time. They tend to maximize on the time in the aircraft. They don't spend time idling and waiting for clearance. And then the other thing to watch out for is how far is your school from what we call the GF, the general flying area, because that's where you practice your steep turns, your medium level turns, your engine failures, your precautionary landings. You practice them there at the GF. So you don't want to be flying for 30 minutes to try and get to a GF. It really won't help your flying career if you do that. These are things to look out for when you choose a flying school. Of course, do get yourself a few quotations from, say, 5 schools, and then just lay them out on the table, sit down, and check who charges how much for what. Who adds the best value, who gives me the best value for money amongst these people, and then choose the one that gives you the best value for money. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you getting value from spending your money. It's not about making people rich. You see. So those are the tips. As you've been talking, I've been telling you that there are 3 licenses to look out for. You will start with what's equivalent to the learner's license. That's your student pilot license. That will allow you to write exams at CAA. You can get that as soon as you are 16, and then you test at 17 for your PPL if you've passed. But the learner's license, which is the student pilot license, will allow you to write your exams and work towards your private pilot license. Once you have that, you can take your aunt on a spin in the air, you can take your friends for a spin in the air, just a scenic flight around Limpopo, just to fly over your house, and have that fun of seeing, hey, there's my house down there, and then from there you must progress and get your commercial pilot license, which will now allow you to fly for pay. From there you move on to your airline transportation pilot license, the ATPL, which is the highest license you can get, which will allow you to become a captain in the airline someday. Those are the 3 licenses to look out for. And then, of course, I've told you in the past that the passing mark is 75. Anything less than that is a fail. Unfortunately, a 74 is a fail in our instance. And you come home, you cry, you dry your tears. If you're me, you get yourself a glass of wine. It helps you sleep better that night. Tomorrow morning at 3 a.m., you're back on the books again, because yesterday's failure is just that. It's yesterday's failure. We're running with today's successes. And then, once you pass your first subject, from the moment you pass your first subject, you have 18 months to complete the set of subjects. If you don't, they lapse, they expire. You must start again. It's a very painful process. Quite a number of aviators have gone through that process of restarting the entire pack of subjects. Let's say you had passed 5 and you failed the rest of, you've passed 5 and the 18 months elapses, all those 5 will go away. You haven't passed them. You consider as not having passed them, you must start again with a fresh 18-month block period.
So let's say if you write an exam and then you get a very low mark, let's say 40 something percent, 43%. So is there a period where you'll be banned from writing the exam for a certain time?
Yes, let's say you get 73. I think, if I recall well, the law there stipulates that you should wait for 7 days and then write again. But if you say you get 40 or under 50, then you will have to wait for 2 months before you can write that same exam. In the meantime, you can continue to write other exams. But the one that you failed with a 40 or a 50, you'd have to wait 2 months before writing it. Because the whole point of that regulation is that allow people time to go back and restudy again and then come back and write.
And the intro flight.
So the legendary intro flight, it's very, very important, because remember, when you are setting out to study aviation, what is driving you more than anything else is the passion, not the reality. You don't know the reality of flying at that moment. You are simply being pushed by passion. You love this thing. It's a calling. It's within you. It's burning inside you. You need to actually get out there and do it. The interflight helps you reconcile your fantasy with reality. You will get to understand whether it is what you want to do for the rest of your life. Because remember, I remember my first interflight. I had been on a Jetstream, an Embraer. I had been on a 747. I had been on a 737, but as a passenger. And as a passenger, all you have is either the window to your right or the window to your left. That's all you have of the outside environment. But in an intraflight, you're in the cockpit. You have a 180-degree view from your right to your left. Even in front of you, you can see where you're going. And that can be scary if you've never done it before. If you've never left the ground and saw the ground, if you've never gone towards the runway and saw the earth rushing towards you, that can be scary. So the interflight reconciles your fantasy with reality, and it will help you decide, is this what I really want? Or did I just come in here because I thought this thing was sexy? You know, so it's important. It's important. I flew over my house when we did the interflight. I could see my other car, like, oh, there's my car down there. Wow, I've never seen my house from the top, you know? And yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. And it was a bit bumpy on the return to the airport. And I had to think, do I really want to do this? Because remember, at that moment, you haven't tested or tasted bumps in the air. Even the slightest bump to you feels like an earthquake, you know? And you are sitting there and thinking, do I really want to do this? But it's very important. I'd urge you to do it. In fact, in the future, when you do your interflight, we would be there. We'd have to capture you doing your interflight. It would be an interesting moment. And
you know, people talk about, or mostly pilots, you know, they wear sunglasses. So what's happening with the eyesight of pilots, you know?
I've heard that question a lot. Why are pilots wearing glasses, or can people with glasses fly? Blah 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 blah. Look, some people have sight issues. Some people don't necessarily have sight issues, but with time, their eyes will react to the work environment and therefore get a little bit damaged and require correction. So remember, lenses are there to correct the vision. Now, by law, I wear glasses as well. My license are endorsed with these. You know, I need to wear them all the time. If I fly without glasses, I can be fined. You know, the CAA, if they fine me upon landing, and they do an inspection and they fine me without glasses, they can, you know, impose a fine on me. And by law, I must have 2 sets of glasses. One with me, one on my person. So if anything happens to these, I can pull up the next one and wear them. So these are prescription glasses as well. I can read with them, I can see with them, but they're also tinted so that when it's too bright and I'm up there, I can move away from my normal glasses, which are clear reading glasses, move away from them into these ones, because these can handle you know, whatever amount of light is out there. Unfortunately, these are polarized glasses, and polarized glasses are not good in the cockpit because you can't see the screen with these. So yeah, so that's the whole point. That's the reason behind glasses. It's not because pilots want to look cool. It's because pilots are trying to correct their eyes. Pilots are also trying to protect their eyes from too much light that we encounter. It could be that maybe the clouds are shining bright from the sun, and therefore you need to protect your eyes. Oh, and of course we do look cool wearing these. Yes.
And so, since aviation is a global thing, you know, it happens all over the world. The main language to use is English. So without English, there is a chance that you may fail to do this.
Yes, I've encountered that question a lot. The issue of English as a language in aviation, where some people were saying, but that's not my first language. And my answer is always, it's not my first language either. English is not my first language. It's not even my second language. Because I speak so many other languages more fluently than English. English is probably my third, if not fourth, other language. But it's a question of practice until you get there. Look, aviation is, or aviation operates using the language of English. That unifies communication. Because if you were to fly into an airspace where they speak French and you couldn't comprehend what they were saying, any instruction they give you to turn left and avoid another approaching aircraft, you would not hear it. You would just fly straight into the other aircraft. But if we all speak the same language in aviation, then there's no debate about what the instruction was and what you're supposed to do as a commander of your aircraft. So English is very, very important. So for any high schooler out there who's still going through matric, focus on English language. You will need it for the future. You will need it, especially if you're going to go into aviation. You will require it. The instructions you'll be given will be given in English. The exams you write at CAA are set in English as well.
Okay. That's good. And the main problem in aviation, that has to be the cost and the funding, because it is quite expensive,
It is.
So maybe you can tell us more about the funding. Where can you get funding?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a very tough question. And again, that's a question that recurs again and again and again. Funding. There are, I'm not a spokesperson for anyone, so I will only say what I know. I don't represent any organization. I will say, or I will talk about information which is in the public domain. I know that the CAA, South African Civil Aviation Authority, at some point did offer bursaries for students who wanted to do training in the aviation sector, whether as a pilot or as an aeronautical engineer or other fields. But what I saw on their social media mid this year was that they had suspended those programs because of Corona. Because COVID-19 required so much from the government, the funds were then diverted. And that was one of the schemes that suffered. I don't know when they will revive it, or if they will ever revive it. The second one is the Transportation Training Authority, TITA. TITA also has funding that they issue a call for every year, around about July, August, September, and about that time. They advertise online. So if one follows TITA, and they can then find out when they have issued a call for applications. They usually fund commercial pilot studies. The other way would be but this has begun to dry up as well. South African Airways stopped it a few years ago, but I've seen Kulula was doing it at some point, and Fly South Air was doing it at some point in South Africa. What we call a cadet program, where the airline recruits you, or not necessarily a recruitment in the employment sense, but it offers you funding and takes you under their wing. You are being mentored within the company, you train within the company, you get funded by the company. I think most cadet programs usually have a contract for you to get employed at the end of the training. But usually some have a clause that says you must remain with the company for a certain number of years. It could be 5 years, it could be 3 years, whatever the years you agree on after you finish your training. So those are other methods that could be used. But the major one that I usually push people towards is self-funding, where it's either you start a business, or you get your family to fund you, or you get a job and then fund yourself bit by bit. Be a part-time student, be a modular student, finish your PPL, start funding your night rating, start funding your instrument rating, start funding your CPL until you finish using your own salary. Self-funding is an option as well. So I hope this addresses your questions, Bokang, and I hope it helps other fellow matriculants out there who have similar questions. Do you have any message for your fellow high schoolers, your fellow matriculants out there?
Yeah, the message, mostly to who wanna move into aviation, is that no matter how tough it gets, you do not give up on what you want. You keep pushing because a lot of people have done it. People from the villages have done it. So every day, keep on pushing, keep on grinding towards the cockpit.
Keep on grinding, keep on flying, keep on pushing towards the cockpit. Even if you're from the village, keep on grinding. There is, a space out there for village boys and village girls, but they need to want it for themselves. That's the message we're getting from Bokang right here. And I hope other fellow high schoolers are getting this message loud and clear from this determined young man. I hope that was an informative episode, and Bokang, I hope this deposited a lot into your dream, into your calling. It will push you towards your goal, and eventually one day we will sit down again, perhaps meeting at some airport somewhere on some foreign soil, you flying in one direction, me flying in another direction, and we have this chat again, and we remember this conversation that we had in Johannesburg on this beautiful sunny day of December 2020. We've seen some growth in the past, and thank you for following, thank you for subscribing, thank you for sharing these videos. Please continue to do so. It's the only way we can grow this channel, the only way we can make Africa great again. Click like below, share with your fellow aviators, and continue to leave us suggestions of topics we can cover in the comments below. And remember, our mantra is with every hour the cockpit beckons. Whatever it is you are doing, keep adding those hours, whether it's an hour of study, an hour of watching this channel, an hour of sharing it, an hour of talking to your fellow aviators about your dreams and your goals. Keep adding those hours, because with every hour the cockpit beckons. Until next time, Angelo Dube here signing out and saying keep safe.